This is the cheapest country to live in the European Union. Yes, it's even cheaper than Bulgaria. It's also among the safest countries in the world, and recently it was considered the 50th best country in the world for remote professionals. Their economy improved so much in the last 30 years that they are called one of the European tigers. I've personally been there and talked to residents about their real-life experiences, and in this video I will show you, with data, hard facts, statistics, and many views from locals, why Romania might be the best country for you. But not everything is flowers, wine, and sarmale. So I'll show also the not-so-good part, the cons of Romania. And by the end of this video, you will discover 3 cities where you can live a good life, spending for an entire year what you would spend in 3 months in the US. Let's begin with the pros of living and retiring in Romania. The first one is their remarkable improvement in quality of life and economic conditions. In 1995, Romania was one of the poorest countries in Europe. With a per capita income of just $1,650 a year, it was far poorer than Serbia or Bulgaria. Less than 30 years later, in 2022, their income skyrocketed almost 10 times to nearly $16,000 a year, leaving both Serbia and Bulgaria far behind. But the income per capita was not the only thing that improved in Romania. Infant mortality was reduced so much that now is at levels similar to the United States. Unemployment is quite low, and life in general is much better, to the point that alcohol consumption is quickly declining, although it might still be considered high. Nowadays, Western Romanians have a quality of life similar to Hungarians or Croatians. They are no longer the poor country that was forgotten in the past, but a modern, growing economy. A peculiar fact that translates to how fast Romania is developing is its impressive internet infrastructure. They have one of the fastest internet speeds in the world, and that's thanks to the post-communist reforms that opened the market to internet providers and stimulated competition. It's quite the opposite of what happened in Greece, which favored monopolies and, surprise, surprise, has very bad internet speed. And since we are talking about reforms that allowed private investment in certain sectors, this is directly related to our next pro. Private healthcare in Romania is good and very, very affordable. Every year, around 20,000 foreigners go to Romania for medical procedures in one of its many private clinics and hospitals. On average, each of these medical tourists spend a bit more than 1,000 euros on specialties like dental treatments, plastic surgery, and orthopedic procedures. A single titanium dental implant in Romania will cost less than $700. In the US, the same implant will cost close to $5,000, almost 7 times more. A knee replacement in a private hospital in Romania will cost you around $5,000. In the US, from $25,000 to $50,000. If you are worried about the quality, there are many well-evaluated institutions like the Victor Babeș Private Clinic in Bucharest. And now you might ask, is healthcare in Romania reliable for retirees coming from other countries? At least in the case of these private institutions, many of them have English-speaking staff. And since we are talking about language issues, this is actually what our next positive thing on Romania is about. The language barrier is not so bad there, and this is due to 2 reasons. First is that many people, especially in larger cities, know how to speak English in Romania. IEF, one of the largest language institutions in the world, compiles the EPI, English Proficiency Index. There they rank the countries by the degree of English-speaking skills of their population, and Romania ranks really high in the 17th place, better than richer nations like Switzerland, France, and Italy. So chances are that in a large Romanian city, you can solve most of your problems just with English. Still, I strongly recommend you to learn some Romanian language if you're planning to stay there for longer. And here is another very good news. To learn Romanian is not difficult. If you saw our previous video about Poland and Hungary, and I really do recommend you to watch them, you are aware that these countries, as well as many others in the region, have notoriously difficult languages. The Romanian language, however, is different, very different. Despite being surrounded by Slavic countries with difficult languages like Serbia, Bulgaria, or Ukraine, They are not part of the Slavic linguistic group. Even better, Romanian is a Romance language. They are linguistic cousins from Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and, well, French. See this map made by the Foreign Service Institute of the US government, an organ that trains US diplomats and other public employees on different languages. Here you can see 4 different categories of languages, ranging from 1, the red color, which is the easiest, to 5, the most difficult. All languages in Eastern Europe are in category 4, they are difficult to learn. Except one, this red island in a sea of green. This, my dear viewers, is Romania, and their language is way easier for English speakers than Polish, or Hungarian, or Albanian. However, it's worth saying that while easier than Slavic languages, Romanian, which has a lot of Slavic influences, is harder than Spanish or Italian. Some things that exist in Romanian don't exist in Spanish or Italian, like the declinations and grammar cases. And some things are even weirder, like the fact that some words change their gender depending if they are singular or plural. Apple, for example, in the singular form is gender neutral, umar, but in the plural form it's feminine, do amare. We can say that Romanian is at the same time the hardest language of the Romance family, but the easiest language in Eastern Europe. This Romance Latin heritage in Romania is not restricted to the language. While countries like Ukraine, Serbia, and Bulgaria have Slavic influences, Romania's history traces back to the Roman Empire. This Latin background has shaped the Romanian language, customs, and traditions. In fact, it extends to the next positive aspect I want to tell you about, the culture. Its people are proud of their cultural heritage, and many are eager to share it with outsiders. While Romanian traditions are unique, they carry a sense of familiarity for visitors from Western Europe due to the shared Latin roots. While I'm not saying that Romanians are as loud or cheerful as their Mediterranean cousins, but they surely differ from the average Slavic neighbor. You will notice that Romanians gesture quite a bit, almost as much as Italians. Another thing that you'll find in Romania that is similar to Italy is that no bar or cafe is in a hurry to throw you out or make you feel unwelcome. Come in, have a drink, and stay as long as you want. One of the most notable Romanian traits is the value placed on family and social connections. Much like in Italy and Spain, meals are important social events, where sharing food and conversation plays a big role, similar to the Mediterranean tradition of long, relaxed dinners. Another similarity is that Romanian greetings among friends involve a kiss on both cheeks, similar to customs in Southern Europe. The fourth reason Romania might be a good place for you is the low taxes. If you are a US citizen, you likely know that the US is one of the 2 countries in the entire world that charge taxes from citizens living abroad. The other is Eritrea. So you might think that living abroad means paying the double in taxes, right? Well, in some cases this is true, but this is not the case in Romania, because they have a treaty with the US to avoid double taxation of American residents. The Romanian government also made this treaty with many other countries like the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, and Australia. So the taxes you pay in one country, you won't have to pay again in the other. Let's make a quick calculation, and imagine that you are an American citizen earning $50,000 in pensions. For the US, you would need to pay $6,306 in income taxes. In Romania, for pensions from abroad, there is a flat income tax of 10%, so technically, for the Romanian government, you would need to pay $5,000. Both taxes together are $11,306, and maybe you think this is the total income tax you would pay, right? No, it's much less. The $5,000 you paid in income taxes in Romania, you subtract from the $6,306 you would pay in the US. Therefore, for the US government, you pay just $1,306. So at the end of the day, moving to Romania didn't increase the income tax you pay at all. The next reason you should think about moving and returning to Romania is probably the one you are waiting for this entire video. But before revealing it, I would like to ask a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. The low cost of living. Imagine waking up every day in a European city like that, where your retirement dollars go twice as far. This is perfectly possible in Romania. And to prove that to you, first I will answer one simple question. How much cheaper is Romania compared to the US when it comes to everyday living expenses. Let's begin with one of the most common groceries, bread. The cheapest pack of whole wheat bread in a Walmart in the US costs $2.17. In Romania, for the same amount of type, you pay a 4.99 lei, which is the equivalent of $1.1, just half of the US price. A box of a dozen eggs in the US costs $3.4. In Romania, they sell eggs in boxes of 10, and it costs 9.49 lei, or just $2.1. So in the US, you pay 28 cents per egg, but in Romania, only 21. The lower cost of living in Romania also translates to other common expenses. For example, in Brasov, a beautiful medium city in Romania, you can have a haircut for 40 lei, or just $9. Now compare that to Boston in the US, where a haircut will cost you $30. Dining out is also much cheaper. For example, Hanu Berarilor is one of the best local cuisine restaurants in Bucharest. There you can have a delicious plate of mamaliga for 26 lei, less than $6. After that, if you are still hungry, you can order a sarmale, one of the most, if not the most traditional Romanian dishes, for just 62 lei, or less than $14. These are the prices in an expensive restaurant in Bucharest, which is the most expensive city in Romania. In smaller cities, you can have a nice dinner for prices that would not pay for a hamburger in the US. But the real star, when we talk about the low cost of living in Romania, are the housing prices. In some cities in Romania, rent is as low as $300 a month. This is the equivalent to what you pay for a parking spot in some American cities. I will show you these cities, places where you can have a high quality of life for very low prices in a few minutes, because before, I must make a disclaimer. Romania is the most affordable country in the European Union for retirees, but it's not without its drawbacks. So it's time for us to answer another question. What are the cons of moving to live and retire in Romania? The first is the transport infrastructure. Especially between smaller cities, the transport infrastructure in Romania is underdeveloped when compared to other European countries. The road network spans over 86,000 kilometers, but the highway system is sparse, with only around 1,000 kilometers as of 2023. For comparison, neighboring Hungary, which is about half the size of Romania, has over 1,500 kilometers of highways. For example, the journey from Bucharest to Cluj-Napoca, two of the most important cities in Romania, takes about 6.5 to 10 hours by car, even though the distance between those two cities is only around 450 kilometers. Train travel, which is usually a reliable and comfortable option in Western Europe, faces issues there. The Romanian State Railway, CFR, is notorious for delays and outdated trains. While there have been investments in modernizing certain routes, much of the railway network is still decades-old, and travel times are quite long. This is what a local told us about the trains there. Open quote. The wagons are old, the service is bad, delays and broken doors are common, the toilets are laughable, a bus is faster and not more expensive. Our trains today, as they are, I avoid. End quote. Another negative point is bureaucracy and sometimes corruption. Navigating Romania's bureaucracy can be frustrating for expats, especially for those from outside of the European Union, who need to handle residence permits, healthcare registration, or banking. Romania ranks low in Europe in terms of government effectiveness and control of corruption. In the 2023 International Corruption Perception Index, Romania scored 46 out of 100, placing it among the most corrupt countries in the European Union. Bureaucratic processes are often slow, inefficient, and paper-heavy, and the third negative point of Romania is, well, get ready for some surprise. It's Bucharest. With a population of over 1.8 million, it's the largest and most expensive city in Romania, together with Cluj. It has noise and in some parts traffic, not the things you are dreaming of when you are planning to retire abroad. Bucharest is known for its communist-era architecture, which gives much of the city a grey and somewhat unattractive appearance. While there are some beautiful areas, like the Old Town and the upscale neighborhood of Primăverii, much of the city feels crowded and lacks the charm of Romania's smaller, historical cities. When I was there, a local explained to me that Bucharest, in the past, was much more beautiful, But in the 70s, an earthquake destroyed the city. The dictator at that time was a communist dictator called Nicolae Ceausescu, and so he decided to rebuild the city to his own taste, and he had a peculiar taste, to say the least. Some of these parts are also aged fast. It's not uncommon to find aging apartment blocks and poorly maintained infrastructure in large parts of the capital. In terms of cost, Bucharest is significantly more expensive than other Romanian cities. Rent, utility, and groceries in Bucharest can be 30 to 40% higher than in places like Iasi or Oradea. For example, an apartment in Bucharest might cost twice the price you would pay in smaller cities like those I reveal to you now. Because it's time to answer the most interesting question of the day. Which cities in Romania offer the best for the less? And in which kind of houses or apartments you can live in these cities for the budget of a small studio in Philadelphia? We start our list with the third best city for anyone considering retirement in Romania, Oradea. The first thing you notice about the city of 183,000 residents is that it's one of the westernmost cities of Romania, just 6 kilometers from the border with Hungary. And this is a positive thing for a few reasons. As I mentioned before, the most developed part of Romania is the west. Second, Oradea is well connected to many European capitals. It's closer to Budapest, Vienna, Belgrade, and Bratislava than it is to Bucharest. Even Krakow in Poland, a city with so many nice things to do, is closer to Oradea than Bucharest. This has many advantages. One of that is that Oradea is closer to major airports like the Budapest Ferenc Liszt International Airport, which is a hub for Wizz Air, a budget airline that can fly you to nearly anywhere in Europe. The second advantage of such a privileged location is that Oradea received a considerable amount of funds from the EU, and the city improved considerably in terms of infrastructure. The city is also home to some modern hospitals, including Spitalul Clinic Județean de Urgenție Oradea and Spitalul Pelican. Maybe I'm pronouncing some words incorrectly here. Oradea is also known for its abundance of parks and green spaces such as Parcul Băucescu. And there are many Baroque and Art Nouveau buildings from the times of the Austro-Hungarian Empire which are very pleasant for the eyes. This is what a local told us about the city. Open quote. Oradea is a clean city with no traffic and receiving high EU funding. Generally good people, but you have to open yourself to them first. There are a few events there too, but nothing major. If you like quiet, clean cities, I highly recommend it. End quote. In terms of the cost of living, the city is 16% cheaper than Bucharest. Let's see what you can rent in Oradea for the same price as a tiny studio in Philadelphia, $1,401 per month. Well, for less than that, just 1,000 euros or $1,110, you can live in a very luxurious apartment with 120 square meters. If you want something less fancy, for $500 you can rent a fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment. The second city I would recommend for anyone planning to move or retire in Romania is Sibiu. It's a city with 134,000 residents located in Transylvania. It has a pretty well-conserved old town with landmarks such as the Brukenthal National Museum and the Council Tower. It is also a very calm city. Despite having a mid-size and well over 100,000 people, it feels smaller. A personal story is that when I first arrived in Sibiu, it was around 10 in the night on a weekday. I wanted to go out at night to eat something, but everything was closing or already closed. The best I could find was a convenience store, so I bought a sandwich, and that was my dinner. That kind of correlates with what people say about the city. The quality of life is good, the prices are affordable, the infrastructure is decent, and it has nearly everything you need. But it still is as calm as a small city. This is what a resident told us about the city. Open quote, Sibiu is the best. Pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly, foreigner-friendly, the food is better, and the people are nicer, compared to the other options. It is, however, boring for nightlife. End quote. The cost of living in Sibiu is 19.3% lower than in Bucharest, while rents are 33% lower on average. With only 500 euros, or $550, you can rent a large 3-room apartment with 100 square meters. And now it's time for the best city to retire in Romania. Just a reminder that this ranking was made based on personal experiences from residents, but also multiple sources. You can access all the sources by subscribing to my Patreon. Tier 2 members get my 3 best-selling books on living overseas, while Tier 3 get a one-on-one call to discuss plans to move abroad. But hurry, this offer is limited to the first 20 subscribers. So head now to patreon.com/the_expat to join. And finally, the best city to retire in Romania is Brasov. If you watched our video about the best cities in Europe for remote workers, you are already familiar with Brasov. Brasov is a bit bigger than the two previous cities, with almost 240,000 people. Of all the cities I have been to in Romania, it's my favorite. And I'm not alone. The majority of the locals, even from other Romanian cities, list Brasov as one of the best, if not the best city in Romania for a foreigner looking to retire abroad. Brasov is steeped in history, with a medieval core that includes landmarks like the Black Church, Biserica Neagra, built in the 15th century. The city's Saxon roots are evident in its architecture and layout. Located in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains, Brasov has also plenty of nature around. I loved hiking to the top of the Tampa Hill just outside the city. The view from there is breathtaking. Very close to Brasov, just 12 kilometers away, there is also a ski resort called Poiania, and the national park Piatra Craiului. The city frequently hosts cultural events such as the Golden Stag International Music Festival and the Brasov International Film Festival. Brasov also has several high-quality medical facilities. Regina Maria and MedLife are among the leading private healthcare providers with clinics and hospitals in the city. Many doctors in these private facilities speak English. Some locals might complain that Brasov is cold in the winter, and that is true. But it's a city with the 4 stations very well marked. So you also have a golden autumn, a magnificent spring, and a pleasant summer. Unlike other cities like Timișoara, Brasov is not too hot in July. Additionally, Brasov's central location makes it a convenient base for traveling through Romania. Bucharest is just a 2.5-hour train ride away. One characteristic that Brasov has that many mid-sized Romanian cities don't, maybe except for Cluj, is that it already has a considerable community of expats, and good part of the population speaks English. This is what a local told us. Open quote. I would recommend Brasov over Bucharest or Cluj as it's cheaper, way less crowded, close to nature, and with nicer people. Younger people speak good English, and you won't have any issues in bars, coffee shops, or restaurants. Since we have mentioned how affordable Brasov is, time to talk about the housing costs. With only 375 euros or $415, you can rent a one-room studio in a central location. This is what you would pay for a parking spot in some American cities. But if you want to spend a bit more, like $1,400 that in Philadelphia would afford you a small studio, in Brasov with such budget, you can live in a 236 square meter apartment, 2,500 square feet, in one of the most expensive parts of the cities and already fully furnished. And all that for 1,100 euros or just $1,223. For comparison, this is what you can afford in Chicago with the same value, a small studio at North Sheridan Road, a fairly dangerous area. Personally, I would choose Brasov any day over Chicago. Now, some of you might be asking why I didn't recommend Cluj. After all, for many, it's the best city in Romania. Cluj might be a great place if you're looking for a lively city with a lot of nightlife. They have universities, thousands of students there, and vibrant streets. However, all this comes at a price. In many aspects, Cluj is as expensive as Bucharest. And if you're considering retirement abroad, I guess that nightlife is not worth the extra money paid on rent. Still, if you enjoy pubs and bars with an international atmosphere, Cluj might be a great option despite their higher rent. Do you know which place in Europe offers lower rents, sunshine, and a good dose of social life? Andalusia, in Spain. But there are also some other positive secrets about this place. Check out this video on your left and prepare to be surprised.